Hello, I'm the Real Edward Cullen, and in response to the Warhammer community survey that you've recently put up, I thought rather than giving you yet another essay for you to wade through, I'd be all hip and Web 2.0 and like 2010 make a video. I want to make two videos. This one, I want to talk about my feelings on GW as a company and some general rule changes that I'd like you to consider. And in my second video, I will talk about Primaris Marines, how I feel GW has not chosen the most optimal path in dealing with that, but the issues around the Primaris Marines are way more complicated. There's all sorts of business logic involved, as well as purely game mechanics. So I need to do that in a separate video to give that a proper treatment. Right. So GW as a company, how are you doing? Brilliant. The fact that you're doing this survey is in and of itself amazing. GW has long had a problem with not being transparent about receiving criticism. I'm sure that people being people, stuff gets said, and historically people have said things, and someone somewhere in GW has actually listened. It's just that the feedback mechanism hasn't been apparent, and the creation of the community team, the fact that the fact that every single post I've made on the Facebook group has had a response from someone in GW who is employed to do that is amazing. That is the gold standard that every single company on this planet should be holding up to. The overall quality of the content that the community team put out is brilliant. It's just everything is going in the right direction. So from that perspective, 2 thumbs up, 10 out of 10, keep it up. 8th edition, it's different, it's this and that. It's always going to be difficult to introduce a new set of rules and balance them and all that sort of stuff, so yeah, that's fine. What I've seen, again, things going in the right direction. One specific thing, it would be really, really nice to know the lead time on critical things like codices and especially chapter approved. Because obviously, if you've got a 6-month lead time, which I'm sure it's only like 3 or 4 maybe, or maybe less, on chapter approved, then we as community members, people who care about the game and want to see changes and balance and improvement and all that sort of stuff, it's really helpful to us to know this year's chapter approved. You've got to get your thoughts in by start of September or October, or whenever it is. That would really help us to help you to make 40k a better game. General rule points. Just for getting points values, the one issue that I have with the current rules is there seems to be a lack of differentiation in certain weapons. So, for example, you take shuriken cannon versus scatter laser. Now, the difference between the two is so marginal that it's really difficult to see why one would take a scatter laser over a shuriken cannon, because forgetting the points values, that one's a assault 3 and one's a heavy 4. The fact that with a shuriken cannon you can move and fire it and not suffer a penalty. whereas with a scatter laser you do. That in and of itself balances out the extra shot. And then, the shuriken cannon, if you roll a 6 to wound, you -3 AP, whatever. That makes it really difficult to see, well, why would anybody pick a scatter laser? And there's all sorts of places, where I'm just going to run through a list of suggestions. So, scatter laser, make it 6 shots. Traditionally, historically, like second ed, scatter laser was rapid 6. You got 6 shots. Bring that back. So you can go with the shuriken cannon, which is assault, which is great. You've got the -3 chance to wound, which is great for killing space marines. Or you can have a scatter laser, which is 6 shots, which is absolutely what you want for taking out Tyranids. And that's the kind of differentiation I want to see done better. Assault cannons, a perennial problem. Assault cannons are supposed to be awesome, but I think sometimes, certainly with the transition to 8, they've just gone completely crazy, and it's got to the point where there's absolutely no reason to take a heavy bolter when you could take an assault cannon. If you've got the points to spare and you choose a heavy bolter over an assault cannon, there is something wrong with you. And that to me is, it's wrong. I think it's a missed opportunity. It begs the question, well, if assault cannons are so great, why are we not using them everywhere, and why do we even bother with heavy bolters? I think there's 2 answers I've got to this. One is, think about making assault cannons a dual profile weapon. Going way back to Space Hulk, you could single fire it and it would be awesome at taking out a target, or you could spray a room and it'd be less effective per shot, but you'd have more shots, more chances to kill. And that to me is sensible, right? The whole point of an assault cannon is it's about a rapid rate of fire, and you're building up your damage or you're strengthening your damage by hitting the same target repeatedly with lots and lots of bullets. So when you look at that as a scatter weapon, well, you get a different effect. So how about rapid 6 or heavy 6, strength 4, keep the -1 AP, which means that it's absolutely great for mowing down lots and massed infantry, or heavy 3, strength 6. There's a clear differentiation. If you want to just mow down a whole bunch of termagants, rapid 6 or heavy 6, strength 4, it's good enough. You'll probably get 4 or 5 kills. But then you're not totally overpowering it. I mean, the assault cannons are absolutely a tabletop dominator now, with twin assault cannons on, as we saw from the tournament, and why in Chapter Approved they put the points cost up. Razorback, twin assault cannon. It's just absolute devastation anywhere it goes, because it's just crazy. It's just it's like a super weapon. And that's the way I think you could keep the flavour of an assault cannon, yet differentiate it, tone it down slightly. Other weapons, heavy bolters. Heavy bolters, unfortunately, have they're kind of like they've been left behind, I think, and that's really sad, because bolt weapons are iconic. And I think the fix for this is quite easy. Make them damage 2. Same strength, same AP, just damage 2. And straight away, that massively differentiates them from assault cannons, because, you're only getting 3 shots. It's slightly less strong, but same AP. But if it gets through, you're doing 2 damage. And that means then that there is a meaningful differentiation, a meaningful choice between assault cannons and heavy bolters. Another weapon that I think you could perhaps treat differently is the Hurricane Bolter. I mean, Hurricane Bolters are just madness, 12 shots. That's just absolute insanity. I mean, they're great for what they are, but I think possibly they could do toning down. So how about instead of just being 6 bolters, being a rapid 4 with a +1 to hit? Now, in terms of overall number of hits, damage, and all that sort of thing, you're probably looking at the same results. However, you're reducing the maximum. So in a Land Raider with 24 shots, Crusader, that's just nuts. Or Raven, Storm Ravens, just it's just flying death to massed infantry. And again, the question is, can we do that can we have a cool weapon in a different way? The logic behind that is, if you compare a machine gun, if you've ever seen a video of a machine gun compared to a minigun, the fact that a minigun has such a high rate of fire actually makes it more accurate, because half of the accuracy you get comes from judging your fall of shot, and because the rate of fire on the minigun is higher, you can make smaller adjustments more rapidly to increase your aim, to increase your accuracy, improve your aim. And that's the logic that I throw out there, that Hurricane Bolters, yeah, they're 6 bolters, but you're not necessarily going to get all of the bolters a chance to hit, but what you are going to get is an improved chance to hit for some of them. So that's just an idea. But generally, I think that there's just a failure to differentiate on some of the weapons, and it's not about making this weapon better than that weapon. It's about saying these are the choices you have, and those choices should be meaningful. Choosing between a Razorback with a 20 heavy bolter and choosing between a Razorback with a twin assault cannon should be a meaningful choice, not just, well, assault cannons are clearly better, so if you've got the points, you choose assault cannons. That's what I'm trying to get at. In terms of rules, I think that's about it. No, it's not. The last thing I want to talk about is Centurions. Now, the Centurion kit is fantastic. I think they're awesome. I know a lot of people don't like them, but in terms of the look and what they are, I think they've got a real place in a Space Marine force. Problem with Centurions is they're too expensive. They're just flat out on the table, way too expensive for what they are. They need to be made cheaper. Devastator Centurion with heavy bolters and a Hurricane Bolter is 110 points. That's Dreadnought territory. You're talking 110 points for a 3 wound toughness 5 model. Yeah, it's got 2 arm save. Yes, you can move and fire without penalty. Yes, they get the bonus for shooting into cover if the sergeant's still alive. But they're both marginal and situational. Given the range of either las cannons or heavy bolters, chances are you're not actually going to be moving and firing, for one. The benefit of shooting into cover, a lot of the targets you're going to be shooting at have got light armour, and therefore the additional +1 they get from being in cover is probably not that big a benefit anyway. So just all round, 110 points as a starting price. It's just absolutely bonkers. In my view, this should be closer to 60 points. Maybe even less, because that puts them in the same sort of territory as Inceptors. And that's not a coincidence, because I think one thing to do is, when you look at models in an army like Space Marines, say, why are they there? What's the purpose? If you look at Inceptors compared to Centurions, they're basically doing the same job. They're a mobile heavy weapons platform. Now, with the Inceptors, they really choose mobility. They jump packs with effectively heavy bolters. Whereas the Centurions, they choose protection over mobility. And so in that sense, they're doing a similar job, and therefore it would make sense that you're roughly paying the same points. Now, to get to 60 points, I actually start with the Assault Centurions. When you look at them, what you got, a standard Assault Centurion with Flamers is 74 points. Now, you take off the Flamers, take off the Assault Launcher, that takes you down to 2153 points. And then you say, well, it's got 2 Power Gloves, so it's got 2 Power Gloves that don't have penalty to hit. So that's 20 points roughly. So the base cost of a Centurion is actually 30 points. That's based on taking the war gear off an Assault Centurion, the 30 points basis. And if you apply that same starting point to a Devastator Centurion, and you say, well, 2 Heavy Bolters, 10 points. Missile Launcher or Hurricane Bolters, 10 points. That's 60 points a model, bob on. And I think that's partly where I can see where the points values have got so wildly out there. It's just crazy. So if you got base of about 30 points, and then you look at the weapons, Heavy Bolter, we know Heavy Bolter's 10 points, right? Fine. And then you've got the Missile Launcher. Well, I think the easy fix for that Missile Launcher, keep the range, keep the damage, but just reduce the number of shots, and just make it heavy. Because I mean, it's a Centurion; it can move and fire without penalty anyway. So why have an assault weapon? Because I think it's almost contradictory in terms of the way that the platform is set up. It's set up as a lumbering war machine that just keeps marching forward, unloading its firepower consistently. So why wouldn't you have this missile launcher that fits in with that? And I think the target really needs to be about 60 points. So if you keep it the same and make it heavy 1, would it be worth 10 points? I don't know. Maybe you could get away with making it heavy 2 with doing the D3 damage. But I really don't understand the random number of shots, because you look at Cyclones, they're 2 shots. All sorts of different weapons where you've got 2 shots. Why would you have a random number of shots? It's a little bit. The thing is that a D3 averages out at 2, and it's not like a D6 which averages out at 3.5. It's 2. So what you're doing is you're adding in dice rolls that really, I just think they're actually a bit superfluous, and the added dice roll actually slows down your gameplay. So why bother? Just make it heavy 1, make it heavy 2. Just go with it. Just keep it simple, and because it would fit better with the nature of the design and the overall nature of the platform, I think. Another thing to consider might be to restrict the number of las cannons you can have in a Centurion squad, to maybe even 2 models. Now, obviously, because of the history of the Centurion kit being a 7th edition thing, you might upset some people because they might have built 3 Centurions with 6 las cannons. So that might be harder to get some people to swallow, but I just think that your Devastator squad is it's 4 heavy weapons, and I think it's not unreasonable in principle to actually put a restriction on that, on the number of weapons you can have in your squad. So that's just a final thought on the Centurions. So my final thought on the Centurions: great kit, want to see more of them, want to be able to justify buying them from a gameplay perspective as well as a collector perspective. And I think getting the points cost right down to 60 to 90 points a model, somewhere in that region, would be a much more easily justifiable sort of points value. And hey, you make them cheaper, you make them more attractive on the table, people are more likely to buy them. And I think that sums up basically the sort of immediate thoughts on rules. I've focused primarily on Space Marines because that's my primary army, so I've spent more time thinking about them and what have you. But obviously, I've touched on Eldar. And Warren, can you give us a hint? Are you actually going to give us another Primarch in the April sort of timescale? 12 months on from Guilliman. And also, can you please squash the rumours that you might be bringing back Sanguinius? There's a lot of people who would love to see Sanguinius come back in 40k. I am not one of them. I believe that if Games Workshop were to actually release a tabletop Sanguinius in 40k, it would be the most cynical, money-grabbing ploy you could ever have. If they wanted to do, a 30k collector's, kit, but not release rules for 40k, that'll be fine. But I think to actually bring him back in the same way you brought back Guilliman, it would fundamentally undermine the whole Horus Heresy, the whole point of his sacrifice in the first place. And I'm sure that there's plenty of people in GW who've already got this covered, but it would be really nice to have that reassurance, because I think there's a lot of people out there who really are actually would be really upset by bringing back, and they do get upset at even the talk, the rumours that he might actually come back. So I just think that as a Christmas present, it would be nice if you would scotch that rumour absolutely categorically once and for all. My final thing, please, for this Christmas, or even next Christmas, please can you give us bottles of aircast thinner at a reasonable price? I totally understand why you do them in the pots, because you've already got your production line for that. It makes sense, but the cost is just ridiculous. You do 12 millilitres. What is it? £3.50. Now, I know, because I have a nose, that aircast thinner is primarily it's water and isopropyl alcohol, and then there's a bit of special sauce that helps to keep the acrylic medium stable. Right, I understand that. Now, I can make a home-brewed airbrush thinner that's good for the vast majority of your paints, and I can do that for about 20 quid for 3 litres. Right? Now, to buy 3 litres of aircast thinner would cost, let's see, 339, add 2 zeros, £900. £900, best part of £1,000 for 3 litres of what is basically water, isopropyl alcohol, and a little bit of special sauce. I totally understand that you're in the business of making money, and that's great. You knock yourselves out, but there's premium, and then there's premium, and it's just that when you actually crunch those numbers, that is a line that even GW just can't justify. So all I want is 100, 200, 300 mil, 500 mil for a tenner, something like that. comes in a bottle, so I can drop it straight in. Just something that I can actually say, I'm not spending £1,000 for every 3 litres. The best part, £300 a litre. Because it's just not reasonable. Why is this important? Why don't I just stick to using my homebrew thinner? Well, my homebrew thinner is good enough in most paints, but it's not yellow. When you're trying to do Imperial Fists, that's a big issue. We all know yellow's a hard colour to work with. And the Aircast thinner, obviously because you get it from the same suppliers or whatever, it's formulated to work best with your own colours, so your own paints. So, I know through experience that when I want to spray yellow, I've just got to use the Aircast thinner. But at the same time, it's like, well, it's so expensive that I just can't justify using it in large quantities. So that makes me think, well, do I need to go looking elsewhere for alternative suppliers? And that's it's not about I don't want to Games Workshop charging ridiculous prices. But it's you're a premium product, you're a premium company, a premium product. I understand that, but there's a line, and the cost of Aircast thinner absolutely crosses that line, and you need to sort it out. Because it just makes using yellow and large scale just completely unfeasible. I literally I can't justify using Citadel paint for it, which is a real shame, because while some may argue that Citadel paints aren't the best around, they are a good product, and a lot of people use them and get very good results. So I want to be able to keep using Citadel paints for all my painting, but for this one thing, you make it impractical. You just make it impractical. So I want to remain loyal. I want to remain a loyal customer, but it's a two-way street. So I think that's got to wrap it up, because I'm getting on to half an hour now, which is a lot longer than I thought it would be. But thanks for listening, and Merry Christmas.